The death penalty is an issue that I was pretty split about for a long time. I've listened to both sides of the story, and I felt that both sides made some very good points. And I still do. I may have even leaned towards being for the death penalty. But after giving it some thought, I'm going to have to say that I'm ultimately against the death penalty. Now, I completely understand why somebody would be for it. If I was forced to watch some sick maniac murder my family, I would most likely want that person dead too, and I would think that justice would be served if that person received the death penalty. After having witnessed a horrendous murder of people that I know, I would understandably have such a reaction. But still, I have my reasons for being against the death penalty. The biggest reason why is because there's always the possibility that you could be executing an innocent person. This has happened before. Killing just one innocent person in the process of killing a whole bunch of murderers really isn't worth it. Can you imagine what it's like to be on death row, knowing that you don't belong there? And if killing an innocent person is punishable by the death penalty, and the state finds out that they executed an innocent person, then by their own law, shouldn't those people responsible for his death also get the death penalty? Or does the law not apply to them? In other words, only the government has the power to legally kill another human being. The justice system is made of humans, and it's only human to make mistakes. Prosecutors can withhold evidence, and police investigators can falsify evidence in order to win the case. Take Alan Gell, for example. He was on death row for 5 years on a first-degree murder charge. It turns out that the 2 witnesses who testified against Gell lied to the police because they were the ones who actually committed the murder that he was charged for. And on the day of the murder, Gell was already in jail for a previous crime. The prosecutors had this evidence the whole time and knew he was innocent, but he was put on death row anyway. 2 years later, they retried him and he was exonerated. Imagine if this evidence never surfaced, he would be dead. This happened to others as well. Since 1973, there have been 140 people who were released from death row with evidence of their innocence. Those who are against the death penalty usually say, the death penalty is ironic. They kill people to show that killing is wrong. And those who are for the death penalty usually respond to that by saying, well, what about sending a kidnapper to jail? Aren't we kidnapping to show that kidnapping is wrong? Well, I suppose you can look at it that way, but there is a big difference. The person in jail can be released if he's found to be innocent later on. We can't say the same thing about somebody who has been put to death. That's another problem I have with the death penalty. It's irreversible. If they are found to be innocent after they are executed, it's too late. Some people say that the death penalty is an effective deterrent, that somebody will think twice before killing if they know that their life will be ended if they get caught. Well, I have 3 problems with this. First of all, the murder rates in the death penalty states are higher than the murder rates in the non-death penalty states. You would think that if the death penalty was really an effective deterrent, then these figures would be the opposite. Second of all, killing these criminals does not kill their influences on the world. Their ideas don't die when they get killed, and it doesn't stop others from following in their footsteps. And finally, no punishment is going to deter murderers from committing this crime. Now, most of us have inhibitions that prevent us from taking another person's life. But let's think about what would motivate somebody to take another person's life. First, we have self-defense, which I think is completely justifiable. Second, we have profit. If a hitman is hired to kill somebody for a large sum of money, then they will do so meticulously and try their best not to get caught. And if they are so certain that they won't get caught, then it doesn't matter what the punishment is. Third, murder is a compulsion for some people. They truly feel they have to kill. No punishment is going to deter that. And fourth, people could kill in the heat of the moment. There is this breaking point. A person can see or hear something that gets them so angry that they flip out. They don't even think about what they are doing. That's why it's called flipping out. You're not thinking of the consequences. I remember one student who I tutored about 4 years ago. He was a good kid, and I liked working with him. In fact, I would say he was one of my favorites to work with. He even worked in the front office at our tutoring company for a while. We had pictures of some students hung up on the walls, and he was in a lot of them. So he was pretty well known around the office. But then I saw something that surprised me. I saw his picture in the newspaper with the headline, "Student Murdered by Fiancé." Before I read the article, I assumed that he was the victim. but in fact, he was the murderer. Apparently, he was having an argument with his girlfriend and he shot her. Now, I don't know what the argument was about, but something obviously made him snap. He certainly wasn't thinking about any consequences at the time he shot her. After about 30 minutes of driving around, he turned himself into the police and he was charged with second-degree murder. I couldn't believe this was the same person who was asking me about inverse variations just a few months prior to the incident. And right after I read about that story, I noticed my boss took all the pictures he was in off the wall. So yes, if you are motivated enough to actually kill someone, then there is no punishment that could possibly stop you. Now obviously, just because I feel that the death penalty is not an effective deterrent, doesn't mean I don't think that they should be punished. I just don't think the death penalty is the way to go. Life in prison may be more appropriate. I mean, they have to live out the rest of their lives without their freedom. So in a way, their life is ended. Another reason I'm against the death penalty is because it actually costs the taxpayers more to give someone the death sentence than it costs to keep them in prison for life. Carrying out one death sentence costs 2 to 5 times more than keeping that same criminal in prison for the rest of his life. It has to do with the endless appeals, additional required procedures, and legal wrangling that drag the process out. It's not unusual for a prisoner to be on death row for 15 to 20 years. Judges, attorneys, court reporters, clerks, and court facilities all require a substantial investment by the taxpayers. There is yet another reason I'm against the death penalty. I would like to talk about this issue more, but with respect to gender. But that's worthy of a separate video.